Okay, hopefully these notes will be pretty short. We are going to talk about absolute value, which has to deal with distance. And it might be a new concept for some of you, and others have probably seen it before. We'll start out with our definition. Absolute value is the distance, and distance is the key word here, between a number and 0 on a number line. The distance between 0 and a number on the number line. Two things about absolute value that are always true is that it is always positive. The absolute value of a number is always positive, and it is indicated or shown by two straight lines. I say hugging a number, and I'll show you what that means in just a second. The reason why I say that it is hugging, because when I think of hugging, I normally think of hugging in a positive way. You want a hug from someone, and that's a positive thing. Okay, don't take it in the negative way where you say, I don't want to be hugged by that person. If you think of it as a positive way, that a number absolute value is hugging, it relates to these things. Your answer will always be positive. So let me show you an example. This represents absolute value. These two straight lines hugging the 4. The absolute value of 4 is what this is saying. Absolute value of 4. And if I put an equal sign, it means the absolute value of 4 is equal to 4. Here, the absolute signs are hugging the negative 4. The absolute value of negative 4 is also 4. And I'm going to prove it to you why. And we use the number line to help us do that. Alright, so here's my number line. And if I count the spaces from 0 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I get 4. If I count the spaces from 0 to negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I also get 4. The distance between a number and 0 on the number line represents its absolute value. It doesn't matter if the number is negative. The amount of spaces it is, and I can even do it this way, 1, 2, 3, 4. The amount of spaces it is from 0 represents the distance. That's how far away from 0 it is. Now I'm going to show you an example of an inequality with absolute value. Inequality is one of those words that you need to start being familiar with. We did it in our last chapter. And inequality, again, is a greater than, lesser than, or equals to sign. And I'm going to put negative 500 and negative 495. And my two lines are hugging, which means they're both absolute value. So when I look at the absolute value of negative 500 is 500. And the absolute value of negative 495 is 495. Now you can compare the two. 500 is greater than 495. There's only one more concept that I want to go over with you in these notes, and then we'll be done, and I'll give you a to-do. And that is the meaning of zero. And the meaning of zero often comes with word problems. If I tell you that there is a sea level is going to represent 0. I'm going to draw you a little picture, and we're going to do a problem like this. So here's my sea level, and I can either go above sea level or I could go below sea level. But sea level is 0. If I'm talking about going on a hike, okay, the meaning of 0 is going to be wherever I start. So let's say right here is where I start on my hike. That will be 0. Anything above means I'm going up. Anything below means I'm going down. If I'm talking about, I'm trying to give you another example. I can't think of one right now. But we'll be talking about the meaning of 0 in a lot of our problems, and this sea level one is particularly important because we have a whole problem based around this. So don't forget, if you're going above something, or you're going below something, or if you're talking about up or down, where you start and where you finish depends on, where you finish is going to depend on where you started, and that could be either above or below. That starting point will always be 0. Okay? And that's something that's really important for you to understand. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about distance. I'm going to write this down because this is important. Distance is always positive because it's absolute value. I can say my integer represented by hiking down, my integer is -5. I hiked -5 miles down, or I hiked 5 miles down. My integer represented by that would be -5. However, the distance is still just 5 because that's how far I went. That was a distance. All right, I'm going to give you the to-do problem, and then we're done with the notes for today. I know, fast, huh? Okay, I have to turn my page, though. All right. It's a long one, and you have to write it down. Two numbers have an absolute value of 23. You have to tell me what those two numbers are. Look at the example we just did. Only two numbers can have an absolute value of 23. However, which of the two values or two numbers is closer to 1? How do you know? If you need to draw a number line that helps you understand the problem, I would recommend you draw a number line. But you need to be able to say two things. Which of the two numbers is closer to 1? And then you need to have a because or some sort of explanation telling me how you know. The word distance could be in your answer. So, again, if you need to draw a line, look at what we did here. Look at this example, except your number, your absolute value is 23. And then tell me how you know. And that's basically everything. This chapter is negative numbers and it is absolute value. We might do a little bit with adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers, but otherwise we're done with this chapter. We'll do some more practice, so I hope you're understanding this. I can't wait to hear your discussions when you come in tomorrow about this. See you tomorrow.